Welcome back to Laughing in the Dark, the podcast where I hang out in haunted places with comedians. I'm your host, Sarah Jones. This is another fixture in our Sunday Minisode series where I talk to you about your ghost stories. For this Minisode, I spoke to Hunter about hauntings that he experienced while working at a spooky Girl Scout camp. Here's the call.
Hello.
Hi, is this Hunter?
Yes.
Hi, Hunter. It's Sarah Jones from Laughing in the Dark. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Where am I calling you?
I am in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, I just moved from there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. How's the weather today? Is it raining?
Oh my gosh, it's so sunny. It's been sunny for like 2 days now.
Oh, that's exciting. That's always
Right?
good.
I think there's 2 more days.
2 more
and then
days.
It's done forever.
And then it's all over. I guess, okay, so at the time of this recording, it's end of September. So you basically have, 2 more days of sunshine and then a few more months of cloudy rain.
Yep. I'm here for it.
Yep. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so do you have a ghost story for me?
I do. I actually kind of have sort of a conglomeration of ghost stories.
Love it.
Worked at a haunted Girl Scout camp for 5 years.
What? That's the best.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm very intrigued. I was a Girl Scout, so I'm definitely in for this.
Yeah. Well, so a bit of background. Ghosts are probably my number one fear, like more than anything else in this world.
Really?
I would honestly rather die than see a ghost, but I worked there for 5 years knowing it was haunted.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a little camp out in, like, right around San Francisco, out in the Bay Area of California.
Okay.
And it used to be a tuberculosis hospital for women and children, like working class women and children in San Francisco back in, like, early 1900s. And once it shut down, they're like, hey, what are we going to do with all this land? And the owner was like, I don't know, I like the Girl Scouts. We'll just give it to them.
Oh, okay.
And ever since then, it's been like a running Girl Scout camp. And it's kind of funny because it's the camp where, because we have these big, large dormitory style buildings, we put all the little kids there.
Okay.
So like the kids who are the most like in tune with the spirit world, we're putting with all the spirits.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like other or like sister camps they would say like, oh, well, that's baby camp because there's buildings. And then you talk about the ghosts and they're like, oh, nope, not going there. But yeah, when I first got the job, I didn't know that it was haunted. I actually didn't know until...
It's probably not something they say in like a job interview or anything.
They don't. It is like maybe the third thing that comes up when you Googled it. So I guess I could have done a little bit more research.
Wait, what? Really? Oh my, okay, wait. You said this is in San Francisco?
Yeah, it's like right by San Francisco. It's technically in Fairfax.
Okay, I have to do an episode here. I didn't realize. I thought when you say it's the third thing that comes up when you Google it, so it's like notoriously haunted.
Oh, it's super haunted.
Oh, okay.
I think they might have done some damage control by now, but like when I first started there, it was legitimately the third thing. Like I was in high school when I first got hired, and I was like so excited. I was telling everybody, I'm like, I got this job at this Girl Scout camp. I'm so hyped. And then my like high school biology teacher Google searched it, and he's like, this camp is haunted, right? And I was like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
And he like shows me the website, and I'm like, it's not really that. They're just saying that. It's fine. And I get there, and during staff training, we had this entire like session about the history of the camp, and they're like, hey, so this place is super haunted. And I was like, good to know. It was so haunted that we had code words for ghosts. Like, we would just call them goats.
Goats.
And so every time
like
the kids would want to tell ghosts. Yeah.
Okay.
So like every time the kids would want to tell a ghost story, you'd just keep saying goat story. until eventually they just started telling stories about ghosts because we had such young campers that like if someone told a ghost story, all the kids would be up.
Right, of course.
So it was like, yeah, it was like this huge rule that we were not allowed to tell ghost stories.
Yes, but tons of
But, like,
goat stories.
Yeah, tons of goat stories, like legitimate stories about farm animals. It was hilarious.
And like unrelated, how many goat stories do you have now? Like a ton?
Wait, are we talking the goat stories or the ghost stories?
Well, to be honest with you, this whole segment of my show is about ghost stories, but I haven't heard a goat story, I think, ever. Like,
oh yeah, no, they were always like really silly and just like kids talking about their weird experiences with farm animals. But those weren't the ones I was going to tell you.
Right?
But
No, I know you weren't. But
I can tell you my favorite one if you want.
Absolutely.
There was this 5-year-old girl. She was legitimately too young to be there. I don't know who let her come to camp, but she was so itty bitty, and she raised her hand and was like, I have a goat story. And I was like, yeah, what's your goat story? And she's like, one time I was in Oregon and there was a man and he had a beard and he had a goat. And that was the end of the story.
Well, exactly.
And I was like, yeah, that's true. You were in Oregon.
No, that's very Portland, first of all. Like, that's 100% true. Like, verified story. Second of all, I mean, how much more exciting can a goat story really get? I mean, you see one. That's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, it usually ends with like them eating something.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of different ghosts there.
Okay.
Because it was a tuberculosis hospital, and I have gotten conflicting information from the old lady Girl Scouts that like ran the museum on like camp property as to whether or not it was the like getting better side, because there's two sides of the property. Okay. One of them is a day camp now, and so allegedly the side that I was on, the resident camp, it was either the they're probably gonna live side or it was the children's side. So we're not entirely sure. Well, but there are a lot of kid ghosts. Oh. There's a significant amount of like itty bitty Victorian children in night clothes.
Cute.
Yeah, super cute. Like there's a lot of reports of, you know, kids hanging out at the tops of stairs and like dressed very differently from any of the kids that are actually there. But you also hear lots of stories of people waking up in the middle of the night and they hear like things rattling around, or they see a kid like run out of the room. Right. And those ones I haven't experienced personally, but I've heard a lot of those stories. There was also a like during the off season one year, they cut down the tetherball and the tetherball pole that's outside of one of the buildings. And all of a sudden just everything in that building just started going haywire. Like the lights were getting all flickery and like you'd hear things, and it was just intense and insane. And so the Girl Scouts literally brought in a medium. They're like, hey, can you figure out what they want? And the medium walks up and is like, just put the tetherball back. They're kids. They just want to play tetherball. And ever since then, I would like literally walk, because like the tetherball pole was like right in the middle of camp.
Right.
And so whenever I was walking home at night, I would just physically put on blinders to not see this tetherball pole and to not see the kids, not see the ghosts.
Did you see the ball, like the ball from the tetherball moving around on its own, or?
There were reports of that. There were also reports of like physical, like ghosts, like showing up. But more than likely you'd see the tetherball moving, which is a little weird for that portion of camp, because that portion of camp is a little more blocked from the wind. There are other portions of camp that are just like a straight up wind tunnel.
Yeah.
But that particular spot was usually pretty calm. So seeing the tetherball move would be nerve-wracking, to say the least. But yeah, so lots of Victorian children. There was also an old caretaker, and he died on the property in like the 50s. And I had heard reports from the kitchen staff about like if they left the oven on or if they left something on, or if they were just kind of alone, they would hear both their real name and their camp names, because it was Girl Scouts, so we used camp names, and typically people don't really know your real name, and so for a ghost to know your real name was a little scary.
Right.
But they'd hear someone call that out and would like try and figure out where it is, and in the process of trying to figure that out would discover that they'd left the oven on or something. And I remember asking the senior director of outdoor program if she knew anything about this ghost, and she's like, "Oh yeah, it's just Charles. He's just doing his job." And I'm like, "Why? Why do we employ so many ghosts?"
Right.
I like actively avoided staying in any of the buildings because I convinced myself that the ghosts were only inside.
Right.
And there were there were 2 living units that were outside, and I would just try to spend all my time there. But after my 3rd summer, I changed jobs and had to stay in one of the buildings. And that's when I was like terrified, because one of the building that I was staying in was the only building that I had ever had my own ghost experience in. And that one was with the old nurse. Her name was Elizabeth Ash. And she's really, really cool. Like, historically wise, she had been with the hospital for pretty much its entire running time. She dedicated her life to it. We are pretty sure that we found her once with like one of those dumb ghost hunting apps on a night off. Because we're like walking around the kitchen, and all of a sudden the word socialist pops up.
Socialist?
In this like ghost hunting app. Yeah, like the word socialist. And like historically, we're pretty dang sure that both her and the owner were like big old socialists, and that's why they ran this hospital for working women and children specifically.
Yeah.
And like made it the way that it was, because it wasn't sort of one of those old-timey hospitals where you're trapped and dying and everything is just the worst conditions you've ever seen.
Right.
It was like a really amazing like recovery center. Like they offered the women there art classes and pottery specifically. Like Arequipa pottery is supposed to be like really fancy and amazing, and it's all stuff that was made on site.
That's actually really cool. It sounds like a lot of the ghosts that are there, I mean, from what you've told me so far, it doesn't sound like any of them have any negative vibes or like any negative intentions.
Yeah, that's the really cool thing about this place, is that almost all the ghosts are just these like wonderful, either the kids are kind of conniving, like they're little kids.
Yeah.
They want to play with stuff, but that's just what little kids want to do. There's nothing bad about it. And then Elizabeth Ash and Henry Ebothine's spirit is supposed to be there as well. Cannot confirm.
Wait, who?
Henry Ebothine was the guy who owned the property, the hospital.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. But Elizabeth Ash, she was the head nurse.
Head nurse. And then Charlie is the old caretaker. The old caretaker.
And I don't know the names of any of the little kids. I wish I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so Elizabeth Ash, what she does is if somebody is sick or injured, that's when she's most likely to appear. There's also reports of like you hear her cart making its rounds at night, which I always thought I had heard and was like terrified. I'd wake up and I'd hear little bumps, and usually it was just like, kids flushing the toilet and it running through the pipes and everything. But I was terrified because I was always sleeping in the room that we didn't let the kids sleep in because it was supposed to be super haunted. There were like whole rooms all over the place like that were just staff only for ghost reasons.
Oh my God.
But yeah, there were like old isolation rooms and stuff.
Oh my God.
It was bad. Yeah. But Elizabeth Ash, she's shown up actually to my old roommate more times than she's shown up to me. But he cut his hand once when he was a kid. He was like 12 and working with his mom there, and went to go and get a Band-Aid, and she like showed up to him, and he's a big old ghost magnet. But the one time that I encountered her, it was when I was training to do off-season, which for somebody who's scared of ghosts is probably the worst idea, because that would mean that I would be staying there in this place. I'd be the only person for miles all by myself throughout the winter.
Oh my God, yeah.
Which was terrifying.
Yeah.
But this was just training, and so there were lots of us there. It's like, cool, there's like 12 people here. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to stay literally in the room where he saw the ghost, but it's going to be fine. And I convinced one of my coworkers to be my roommate because I'm terrified. I figured that if somebody was there, I would be okay.
Right.
And she said that she would be my roommate for the weekend, but only if I didn't tell her anything about any of the ghosts. She came from a different camp. And I was like, that's fine. I can work with that. And then that night, I wake up, it's probably around 1 a.m, and I hear cartwheels. And I hear these cartwheels hitting the tiles of the floor. And like these tiles are huge and they have really, really deep grooves. So they make a really distinctive sound when you roll something across them.
Yeah.
So they're hitting all the tiles of the floor, and I'm in this like hallway full of little teeny tiny dorm rooms. And I hear this cart stop.
No.
Every so often, conceivably at the intervals of the door.
Like
and I realized
yeah.
that my plan was not foolproof because I could not wake her up to be like, hey, there's a ghost coming at us.
Right.
Yeah, and I knew it was just Elizabeth. I knew she was just making her rounds, but it was still just terrifying.
Well, yeah.
And so as I heard it come,
I mean,
as I heard it come,
you say that like it's like a thing that most people would be fine with, but like you're like, I'm weird, but this bothered me. Like, no, like I think most people would be like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know. That's funny.
Yeah. I don't know. I think my perspective on ghosts was very skewed after like living in fear for 5 years.
Well, yeah. And you're still terrified of ghosts now to this day, right? Or now have you kind of become used to them?
Oh no, I'm still terrified.
Oh, okay.
Like if I saw a ghost, I'd be like, I live in this like old Victorian house now, and I don't go in the basement after dark. Like there's no lights down there. I would have to go by like phone light, and I'm like, I don't know what's down there. I'm pretty sure it's okay because the house has been physically moved from its original foundation. So like all the ghosts would be with the foundation, right? Ghosts are local.
That's assuming you know how ghosts work. I don't think anybody knows how ghosts work. But I mean, yeah, no, you're probably fine. I don't want to make you feel terrified. I just think it's funny as for someone who is so deathly afraid of ghosts, no pun intended, you really seem to put yourself in a lot of situations that just welcome ghosts. Because I
do.
I mean, you're just like, yeah, I'm horrified of ghosts. I started working at this notoriously haunted Girl Scout camp. Like, what? And then you're just like, yeah, I just live in this old Victorian house. Like, what are you talking about? That is super funny.
Yeah, no, and I was like that like for the entire time that I worked there, because my best friend, who was the complete ghost magnet, every time he saw a ghost, I'd be like, no, don't tell me. And then I'd wait a minute, I'm like, no, tell me everything.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Even if you're terrified, you want to know details. It's better than going in blind. But that's another thing. Your best friend is a ghost magnet. Like, you are hilarious.
Right. Yeah, no, he just... I'll have to tell you one of his ghost stories, because there's one not benevolent ghost at Bocine that we've found, and he terrifies me to this day.
Oh my God.
I don't go upstairs in that building.
Oh my God.
But so like I heard the cart coming closer, and I had this like split second decision of like, okay, I could look her in the face, and I know that my roommate said that she doesn't have a face, so it's just going to be this gaping black maw in front of me, and everything's going to be terrifying. Or I could turn over and just stare at the wall and hope that she just kind of looks at me, realizes I'm breathing, and then goes away.
No, I would not want
Which,
to. I think most people want to look away, but that's scarier to me because it's like you don't know what's happening.
oh yeah, no, I stayed up the rest of the night.
Yeah.
And like, my roommate woke up in the morning and she's like, wow, you look dead. And I'm like, yeah, I can't tell you why.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was absolutely terrifying. But after that first weekend, I was like, everything's going to be okay, because the room that I'd be staying in when I am the only person for miles all alone at this haunted camp
Oh my God.
is this weird like second story addition that was built in the 70s. And I was like, no one's died here in 50 years. So clearly that little addition can't be haunted, is how I'd convinced myself. I sort of have this like canon of how ghosts work in my head, and that's how I've been able to like work there for as long as I did.
Right.
I was like convinced myself of like my own like laws and principles of ghosts.
Yeah. You're like, well, as the
But
ghost expert.
yeah, I've been cohabitating with ghosts for years. But yeah, it was not uncommon for campers to see ghosts, and you were not supposed to acknowledge that they saw a ghost. You would just like convince them that they were dreaming, or
What? Oh my
just try
God.
to get them to go back to
So,
sleep.
what were some of the like stories you heard from little kids where you knew they were telling the truth, but you kind of had to play it off like they had just dreamed it?
Oh, it was almost always the nurse.
Oh, the nurse. Okay.
Yeah, it was almost always the nurse, and the nurse would come by and check on them. And I was always super terrified anytime I went to sleep and I was like sick or injured. I would just like call out into the darkness. I'd be like, I'm good, Elizabeth. No need to come. I'm going to live through the night.
Everything's going just fine over here. Don't need any medical attention.
Yep, it's just strep throat. I got antibiotics. We're good. I know you don't know what those are.
She's like, Anna,
we're good.
What? Like, in her time, they don't even have antibiotics. Actually, wait, no. How old was she? I guess I don't know.
Oh, gosh. I can't remember exactly when she died. But I think she died right around when the hospital shut down. Or maybe after. I know eventually, at some point in its run, they built a house for her up like at the top of the hill. And so she wasn't staying in the staff quarters down in that like hallway of rooms that I was in.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure exactly at what point they built that, or at what point she died. But I'm pretty sure she died on site. But yeah. Her office, though, is also reportedly haunted. There is a chair that is always facing out the window. And if you turn it around and close the door, walk away, and come back, then the chair will always be turned back around. And if you start snooping through the files, you start to feel like kind of achy and chilly. And sometimes you'll feel like a tap or a bop on the back of just being like, hey, those are people's medical files. Don't touch those.
Right.
So like all those medical files are just still up there in that room.
Wow. Like really old dated medical files?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. It seems like those, well, I'm sure someone's uploaded those to like a computer or something. Cause it seems like, cause that's somebody's family history as well. Like, right?
Yeah. I'm also not sure what's happened with them in recent years. Cause I know in the last couple of years, they renovated those buildings. And so I don't know if they like went through and just like tore up her office. I'd hope not, but
yeah.
But yeah.
Wow.
No, the ghosts were so like prolific there that the Girl Scouts would literally hire somebody to come by and like smudge the place every summer.
Oh my God.
One time they had to do an emergency smudging in the middle of the summer.
No.
Because like,
was that when you worked there?
We were having. Yeah. It was like the awful no good summer where like everything was going wrong. We had people legitimately like getting up and leaving in the middle of the night, like counselors escaping at 1 a.m.
What?
Like, packing up their cars and driving away.
Because of the
such a bad
hauntings?
summer. Because of a lot of reasons, but like there was just so much negative energy in the space that it started making the ghosts go like haywire.
Whoa.
And so they had to do an emergency saging like in the middle of the summer.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It was wild.
And they were like, to all the Girl Scouts, they're like, everything's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah. That's like the epitome of my time working there. Like, it's fine. I'm like, no, it's not. Everything is haunted. But so that was mainly this big pink U-shaped building in the center of camp. It was sort of the main building that was there. It was called, we actually called it 3 separate things, but it's called Manor Lyman Bridge. And then Little House was the one with the tetherball pole. And then off in like the very corner of camp, there was the creepiest building. And it always felt just like you walked in there and you felt absolute just like dread. It was like something very dark and something very just like about it. And it probably could have been that it was in like the most shaded part of camp. Probably could have been the stone that it was like this very large and dark stone building. The stone actually came from an old abandoned railroad tunnel. And I was always really curious whether or not the ghosts that were there would come from the hospital or come from this like stone, you know, because a railroad tunnel, turn of the century, I'm sure a lot of dark dealings and, you know, spooky stuff would happen in an old abandoned railroad tunnel.
Yeah.
And I was always just super terrified to go in there. And there was this little itty bitty, you know, those like itty bitty staircases in old buildings where like you look at them and you understand how people tripped down them and broke their neck.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. There was one of those, but it was one of those really terrifying ones where there's 2 flights and you can't see around the bend.
Oh no.
So you're just walking up this itty bitty staircase blind, and it was always the most terrifying part of the house.
Yeah.
That, and there was a ledge that would be super easy to fall over, but that's completely beside the point. But I asked my friend, because he's a ghost magnet, and I was like, hey, Colossus, I'm about to live in this building, and I'm terrified.
Yeah.
What ghosts are there? Like, just lay it on me. I want to know what I'm up against.
So is he like a medium? Like he's a self-proclaimed ghost magnet? I thought you were saying that as a joke at first.
Oh no, he's not a medium, but like he'd been there for a very long time. He started kind of quote unquote working there. He was like volunteering there from the age of like 12, and I met him when he was 25.
Oh wow, okay.
And so he had a long history at this place. And he just is one of those people who's just very in tune.
Yeah.
And he's not trying to be in tune. He just really is. He's like this very open and welcoming presence.
Yeah.
And so ghosts get really drawn to him. And so anytime I was curious about something, I'd figured he'd seen it. And I asked him, I was like, hey, what ghosts are there?
Yeah.
And he's like, I've never actually seen anything in there, which is weird because we all, like across the staff, unanimously agree that Stonehouse is the creepiest building.
Yeah.
Just hands down.
Yeah. Just the idea of a stone house in general. They're gorgeous, but they're creepy.
Right. And there's like vines growing up the side. It's
There was what coming out of the side?
Or like vines growing up the side. Like it really had that foreboding look.
I think it sounds gorgeous, but I get what you mean.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I took a lot of solace in like knowing like, cool, Colossus has never seen anything, so clearly nothing is there.
Right.
And I lived there. I was fine. And then about a week after I had switched living units, Colossus came up to me and was like, hey, so I saw a ghost in Stonehouse. And this is when I like audibly gasped. I was like, oh my gosh. Oh no.
Right.
Don't tell me anything.
But and also tell me everything.
No, tell me everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he said that, and this is the only like not benevolent ghost that we have there. He was walking up the staircase and this railroad man appeared in front of him and tried to like push him down the stairs.
What?
Yeah, like try to like stop him from going up. It was like this like aggressive and foreboding sort of presence.
Yeah.
I moved downstairs immediately and did not stay.
Oh God, yeah, no.
Yeah, no, I never went upstairs in that building again.
But I'm interested that you said
Nope.
The ghost tried to push him down the stairs, so he wasn't successful at doing so. Like it's like he couldn't touch him or something.
That's how Colossus made it sound.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just like he wasn't sure if he was being like angry or if he was felt like he was guarding the upstairs. But yeah, it was the first time we'd had that ghost appear to anybody that I knew.
Yeah.
So we were wondering if he like perhaps only appeared to men, if he maybe tried to keep men from going upstairs because that was where the girls actually like stayed and slept, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
But yeah, no, I was there for 5 years, and like in that like little upstairs add-on, I'd convinced myself, like I said, that everything was going to be fine, never going to be a ghost. I even like was living there at one point because I was homeless and it was almost the summer, and the camp director was like, yeah, just stay at camp.
Right.
It'll be fine.
Yeah. That's nice of them.
Right. And it was, I think during that point that like I just wouldn't leave my room at night. Like as soon as sunfall came, if I hadn't done my dishes yet, I would just wait until the morning, because like the kitchen was downstairs, and I just didn't leave. But then one night really, I woke up at like 3 a.m. and I felt around in my bed. What?
The witching hour.
Right.
Yeah.
I felt around in my bed and I tried to find my phone, figure out what time it was. I was like, oh, there's a group coming tomorrow. I really need to get back to sleep because you don't want to run a ropes course when you're tired.
Oh, God, yeah.
And instead of finding my phone, I felt a cold, dead hand in my bed.
No.
Mm-hmm.
You felt the hand?
I felt like this cold, dead hand. And I was terrified. I tried to like roll out of bed, but there was like something pinning me down. And I'm thinking like, today is the day. Today is the day that I see a ghost, or I finally just die in this place and become both a ghost. In fact, this used to be a like get to know you question that we would ask each other. Was like, when you haunt this place after you're dead, what would you do?
Right.
And we got a lot of funny responses. Like my friend Colossus, because he worked in the kitchen, he was just like, I'd put stuff away. And I always swore that I would like play my ukulele in the middle of my favorite living unit. And it was just this really funny get to know you question, but it was like, today is the day that I become a Bothine ghost.
You're like, it's happening.
And I can't roll out of bed.
Yeah.
And so I find the hand again, and I follow it all the way up to the elbow, to the upper arm, till eventually I hit my own shoulder.
What?
And after all of like my like 5 years of being terrified every waking moment and sleeping moment of living here, like this is single-handedly the most terrifying thing that has happened to me. And it was my own arm, and I'd fallen asleep on it.
Oh my God. What? That's crazy.
And I tell this story to my campers now. I work at a different camp, but I tell it to them now, and I'm like, I want you guys to know the moral of this story is that all your worst fears are real. They are true. They're coming to get you. You'll probably be fine, but also you might become a Bothine ghost.
Yeah.
And I would just like drop the mic and walk away.
Thank you so much for your call, Hunter. Do you have a ghost story that you'd like to share on Laughing in the Dark? This is our very last ghost story call for season 2, but we'd still love to hear from you. Email us at litdarkpodcast@gmail.com or message us using the Contact Us form on the website, litdarkpodcast.com. We may want to feature you in Season 3. As always, thanks so much for listening.